It was one of the only commercial rap albums that was also a concept album that was also successful. So it kind of broke a lot of rules. I think it's one of the best West Coast hip hop albums ever. I think it belongs up there with Doggy Style and The Chronic,
Mm.
and any some of the classics from NWA. I think it's on that level. Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, all of that. I think Good Kid, Mad City belongs in that conversation.
Let me put you on game.
Let's parlay that conversation into a conversation about Kendrick and his discography as a whole. Um, Now that you've processed Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers a little bit better than you did, after only listening to it one time, now that it's sat with you for a while, I want to discuss Kendrick's discography because he has one of the more varied and critically acclaimed discographies in hip hop. So I'm in music in general, I should say. Let me correct myself again. He's a critical darling. So where do you rank his albums from Section 80 to Mr. Morale? Like, so let's go best to worst.
Um, I'll start, and I guess I'll just give my rankings, and it'll be interesting to hear how it differs from you. I'm gonna say from best, I think Good Kid, Mad City is his best work. I think that I've listened to that album as many times as I've listened to albums like Life After Death and Ready to Die. Biggie's been like my favorite artist for a majority of my life. And in 2013, when I first actually really started listening to Kendrick, that album kind of took over that repetitive place in my heart where I listened to these songs over and over again, and I just could not get sick of that album from start to finish. The original version, the deluxe version, was a little spotty, but yeah,
I feel like
that
most deluxe versions are pretty spotty.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, he just didn't miss on that project. With number two, I think that Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is creeping up. It's neck and neck for me with To Pimp a Butterfly. I think To Pimp a Butterfly is I can go into Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, but based on this review, you understand why I love this so much. To Pimp a Butterfly, I think it's hard for me to put any higher than 3 because it is a hard album to listen to. It's very similar to Mr. Morale, but I feel like Mr. Morale overall was more and I'm comparing, like, this is like saying, I don't know, filet mignon is better than a ribeye. It's like they're both delicious. It just depends on what you're in the mood for.
It's
But
like
I
KG
think
versus Dirk or something.
yeah, exactly. So I think ultimately To Pimp a Butterfly was really wonderful and artistic and very pleasant. Um, but it's just something that I can't really listen to by itself. I can't really pick specific songs on it. I think as a whole piece of art, it's just amazing and it stands on its own. But there aren't enough singles that I'm just gonna just pick out of the blue to listen to. I have to listen to that project from start to finish. So then you got Damn, great project. I love it to death. Kendrick just rapping his butt off. Then you got to give me Untitled Unmastered because of the influences from To Pimp a Butterfly, but some individual songs on this project were just so amazing and fun for me to listen to over and over again. And then finally, Section 80. I got into this project a little late, so I had listened to Good Kid, Mad City. So by comparison, they couldn't really compare, and it kind of made me not so much of a fan of Section 80. But I ultimately respect it, and I appreciate what Kendrick did on this project as well. So yeah, that's my list from start to finish.
Interesting. It's not as different. Our lists aren't as different as you think they are.
Hmm.
Um, Good Kid, Mad City is first. I think the top 3 are very interchangeable for me. Good Kid, Mad City is, I think, the album that really blew Kendrick up as an artist. It was one of the only commercial rap albums that was also a concept album that was also successful. So it kind of broke a lot of rules. I think it's one of the best West Coast hip hop albums ever. I think it belongs up there with Doggy Style and The Chronic,
Mm.
and some of the classics from NWA. I think it's on that level. Ice Cube, America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate, all of that. I think Good Kid, Mad City belongs in that conversation.
Yeah.
because we've heard gangster rap albums before, but an album from the perspective of someone that's not a gangster, but is caught up in that community and is just trying to be a good kid, essentially, that's surviving in that type of environment, I think was interesting. It had the hits, it had the deeper tracks. Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst is one of Kendrick's best songs ever. Just him as an artist conceptually, just in his bag, it's great. Number two, I got to Pimp A Butterfly, an album that is a tough listen the first time, like Mr. Morale was, because we're coming off of such a commercial hit, and much in the same way that we're coming off of Damn with Mr. Morale. It's just something that took some getting used to. It was an album that I did not like for the first 2 months that it was out, but I really, really came to appreciate it, especially the risk that he took in his career, because he could have very easily tried to push himself to greater heights by making more hits, but he really leaned into trying to create art, bringing in people like Thundercat and Bilal and Terrace Martin and other really, really eclectic artists to produce something that's jazz and funk and so many other different genres. And I really, really came to love it. It is, like you said, I can kind of go back to maybe like a King Kunta, a Black of the Berry, and All Right. But there's other songs in the album that you really have to listen to in the context, because by themselves, they don't always necessarily work. But in the context of the album, they really, really work real well. And I think it's one of the best rap albums of all time. Any critic will tell you that. And I think I agree with them. And number three, I got Mr. Morale for all the reasons that we said before. It was tough putting it 3, considering how recently it came out. It may move into the second spot after some time, but this is kind of where I have to put it for now, as strongly as I feel about it. But that speaks to how great Kendrick's discography is. At 4, I got Section 80. It was my first introduction to Kendrick ever in 2011, I believe. I just saw, very early Dead in Hip Hop review, and I was just like, what is this about? And I think it was one of the first Fantano videos I'd ever watched as well. And yeah, I fell in love with the sound of it. It was the first time I really listened to an album multiple times after listening to it the first time and not knowing what the hell was going on because of how left of center it was. But I really got used to it. It has really great songs on there. High Power is one of Kendrick's best songs as well, produced by J. Cole. Really, really dope lyricism on that one as well. But an introduction to an artist that I've come to love, as you know, as I was telling you back in college about how this dude's gonna be the next big thing, and everyone was just like, whatever. But he's the one artist. I think I've hitched my wagon to a couple artists that haven't really popped off, but Kendrick is the one that I can stake my claim and say that it's great. I'm claiming Kendrick as my Patrick Williams. I'm hoping it goes as well. Probably not, but we're gonna speak that into existence.
Oh goodness.
I got Untitled Unmastered in the next spot. I think it's great, but it is ultimately a B-side album, so it doesn't necessarily connect thematically the same way the others do. Doesn't have the same level of investment, but I think it's still great. And in the last spot, and what I think is Kendrick's worst album, but it's still a good album overall, which again speaks to his quality of music over his career, is Damn. I just think Damn, while it has a ton of hits, I think it's his most uneven album overall. I think there's a couple duds on there, namely yeah I could do without that. I could do without this what God feel like. You could keep that one too. You could probably also keep some songs that haven't aged as well for me. The Rihanna track, namely Loyalty, as well as the Love track with Zakari. That one hasn't aged as well for me either. Maybe because it's been a little bit overplayed. But yeah, it's just an up and down album for me. It does have standout moments like Lust and DNA and Triple X, and Duckworth, the final track. But ultimately, in a case full of diamonds, it's kind of a ruby for me. So that's where I sit with it. But that speaks to Kendrick. That speaks to his quality as an artist. Then he's even got other albums like the like Overly Dedicated that are also great, or the Black Panther soundtrack, which is a little uneven itself, but it's still a quality piece of work overall. But yeah, that's where we both sit.
Yeah, I like your rankings. Very interesting. Yeah, I could see Damn being lower. But I feel like the highs and the single power of Damn kind of propelled it in front of some of those other projects for me personally. But I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. I think it's still. I think it was Kendrick's attempt at making a hit album, just making hits for the sake of
Yeah.
making hits, and it worked. A lot of it worked. DNA's fantastic, Elements fantastic, but it's just a little bit uneven for me. I was mad when Fantano gave it a 7 back in the day, but yeah, it's really you know, grown on me as time has gone on. But that is our rankings of Kendrick's albums. I'm sure it will change as he continues to release more albums. Hopefully, we don't have to wait 5 years for the next one. But that's where it sits currently. I think he has one of the best discographies in music, better than a lot of the artists that I think people have ahead of him. Not naming no names, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments about Kendrick's discography. What are your rankings? Do you have Good Kid, M.a.A.D City 1? Are you a damn truther? Do you have damn all the way at the top of your list? Is Mr. Morale trash to you? Do you have it at the bottom? Let us know in the comments, and then we can spark this debate. Thanks for checking out this segment of the Put You On Game podcast, where we discuss everything from hoops to hi-hats.
Give us your thoughts on the video in the comment section, and you can also find the full podcast in the link in the description below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.